Hi, welcome to the online part of the Reflecting on Practice Blended Coaching Workshop. Catherine and I are looking forward to reconnecting with all of you. It's been several weeks and so much has happened in our busy lives, because it's now August, and to help us pick up from our conversations back last month, we made this flashback video to jog some memories. So let's take a trip down memory lane. Or maybe it's more like a slightly overgrown trail for some of you. That's Catherine and me, and we all met at the NMEA 2018 conference in Long Beach aboard the Queen Mary. We gathered to engage in the Reflecting on Practice program, and there's more information about the program and explanation about the coaching workshop in this module that you can explore at your leisure. So I won't go into these details in this flashback video, so make sure you check out the rest of the module or our website to learn more about the program. This is the Reflecting on Practice Coaching Workshop, which Catherine and I think of as the beginning of a learning journey for RoP facilitators. You're currently in the red circle. By the end of the coaching workshop, you should be more ready to take on implementing the program at your institution, and that's the yellow circle. And hopefully, over time, you'll get to the blue part, where the ideas and routines from Reflecting on Practice is integrated into your own practice, as well as your institution's way of doing things. In the coaching workshop, we ask participants to be the learner, to experience RoP and to make connections, both with the ideas pulled forth and as well as with one another. Back in July, these were the things that we were asking you to do. But this is a blended coaching workshop, and what makes it blended is that we started in person for one day, and now we're finishing the rest of the workshop online. And so now we're shifting into continuing our RoP sessions and reflecting deeper into your practice so that, and we'll become a learning community. Okay? So that's our plan moving forward now. So let's begin. We started off the day with a thought swap where you stood in two lines facing one another and talked about these 4 topics. Now, this photo was taken during a coaching workshop conducted at the South Carolina Aquarium. And Catherine and I were so busy leading the activities and discussions with you in Long Beach that we weren't so great at taking photos. We always forget taking photos, but lucky for us, RoP has been adopted by more than 100 institutions around the U.S., and our RoP leaders who are leading coaching workshops as well do a wonderful job photo documenting their experiences. The workshops that our leaders are leading are all in person, so people get together over the course of 2 or 3 days. So we'll use some of those photos from their workshops to help jog our memories for this online part. So the thought swap launched us into Module 1, Session 1, and the objectives of which were for you to identify and discuss your beliefs, behaviors, and goals on learning. We had you do a quick writing task to the question, how do people learn? And we asked you to quickly jot down 3 words that came to mind, 2 questions that you have, and a metaphor or analogy that captures how you think people learn. You should know where you've placed those scribbles because we'll come back to them at some point during our online meetings. But if you lost your initial scribbles, that's okay. You can do them now. Just pause the video so that you can jot down 3 words, 2 questions, and 1 analogy. And here's the definition of the analogies and metaphor if that's needed. All right, well, we continued the morning with our first hands-on activity, cup and card. And doesn't she look like she's having fun? My gosh. Who doesn't have fun playing with water? We gave you a variety of containers and asked you to fill the container with water, place a card over the top, and you were to invert the container and observe what happened. we used the experience as a common reference point to talk about learning. What you learned, how you learned, when the learning occurred, and how did you know you were learning? We pulled out more of your learning beliefs and ideas with our first research discussion, a walkabout, around the 5 foundational ideas on learning. And this served as a framework to organize your ideas on learning. At the end of the morning, we mentally took you to the South Pacific and tasked you to think about what excited you about the morning's activities. And we asked you to think about someone who you would like to tell about your experience. Did you tell them? If not, don't forget to do it. And after lunch, we transitioned into the first session of Module 2, which digs deeper into how people learn. For this, we did another hands-on activity, and this time we explored the phases of the moon. And Catherine asked you to recall the times you've seen the moon, and then asked you to consider what causes the phases of the moon. After that, we turned off the lights, and she invited you to play with shadows, and through a combination of guided discovery and free exploration, you built knowledge about the phases of the moon as a community. And these were the 4 key ideas that you built. When we reflected on the experience as a whole, both from the learner and the facilitator perspectives, you called out a list of strategies that helped you make sense of the science. And this is actually a really good list. Well, now that you were primed, and we had another research discussion, this time with more information from the literature, not just drawing on your personal beliefs and experiences. Here, the task was to draw meaning and connections from the research literature and consider how to use them in your practice. Because there was a lot of information, we jigsawed the content. The 3 big topics you sorted into 2 groups of about 6 people each, and within the groups, you paired up with someone, and each pair read a topic. There was a lot to read and process fairly quickly, but you weren't processing it alone. You talked with your reading partner to figure out what the ideas meant, and then reported out in your small group. And together, your group looked for connections between the ideas and discussed the implications for practice. Yeah, this was a heavy task. You'll be revisiting this reading in preparation for our first online meeting. So here's a brief summary of that research discussion. Check out the summary learning page in this module for more information about the 5 foundational ideas on learning. And there was another opportunity to travel mentally to another tropical location, and this time to the Caribbean. What did you write down this time? Who did you share your experiences with? After a short break, we did our last activity of the day. Yeah, it was a super full day. We started into the first session of Module 3, though we only did the initial discussion and hands-on activity. The hands-on activity was the role play, the purpose of which was to examine and compare 3 educator-facilitated conversations and discuss the limitations and potentials of each. We used a program format commonly occurring in informal learning environments. Yep, the card of artifacts. We focused in on sea otters, because you know what, they're so cute. And then we gave you scripts to stay in character. We had very interesting discussions analyzing the skits. And this is actually a photo from our very first blended coaching workshop in Spokane last year in 2017 with the National Association for Interpretation. But check out the summary learning conversations page in this module for more information about what we talked about. The skits themselves were building towards teaching purposes. And though we didn't get into the topic in Long Beach, our one day together was plenty long and full enough by then, but we will come back to these teaching purposes later in the online meetings. We did, however, have you scribble down some closing thoughts before we finished out the day. And hopefully you can find those notes as well. And if not, fear not, scribble some thoughts down now before we get together in our first meeting online. This PowerPoint deck can be downloaded so you can look through the slides without my voice ringing in your ear. And please look through the rest of the materials in this module to remind you of all the things we did and talked about. Also, there are 2 online tasks that you should do prior to our first online meeting. If you have questions about them, please email us. We're looking forward to seeing all of you again.